Hello everybody, good evening, how are you doing? And a very warm welcome to another edition of 8 Till Late Live with me, Tom, here on youtube.com/Wi-Fi Sheep. Happy New Year to you. This is the first edition of 8 Till Late for 2024. Edition or episode 16, I believe. If you're wondering what happened to episode 15, that was privately streamed for our YouTube channel members and Patreon backers last week, and we did that. It was the same day as we did our New Year's Eve live special, and I did a special private edition of 8 Till 8 for our members and backers, which if you are a Patreon member or backer, YouTube channel backer, you can find that in the current playlist for used to be called Patreon people, it's now called channel members, additional content, I think, something like that. I can't remember what it's called, but you'll find it. It's in the link if you are a member of the channel. Anyway, you have to excuse me for being a tiny bit late live this evening. Basically, a bit of news has, interesting news has actually broken literally in the past sort of 5 minutes or so. And I was just made aware of it, and I was trying to sort of scribble some notes down. So we're going to talk about that in a second. Before that though, do you have a need for reliable and cost-effective web hosting for your blog, business or personal website? If so, then look no further than Cheap Host UK. Cheap Host UK's basic plan starts from only 58p per month. That's £6.99 a year. And if you're needing a little bit more, Cheap Host UK's premium packages start from £1.41 per month or £16.99 a year, complete with a free .co.uk domain. New customers can also take advantage of an extra 10% discount when purchasing any first-time hosting package or domain name from Cheap Host UK. Use discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP, to get an extra 10% off. For reliable, cost-effective web hosting and domains, look no further than Cheap Host UK. Full details and an affiliate link are in the description to this video. Indeed, so if you haven't done already, do go and check out Cheap Host UK, sponsors of 8 Till 8 Live here on Wi-Fi Sheep. As I mentioned there in that piece, there's a 10% off discount if you use discount code SHEEP, that's SHEEP, on all web hosting and domain names. Now, again, so you have to excuse me because this breaking news that we'll get to in a moment. First of all, as always, just need to say hello to Patreon and YouTube channel member backers. There they all are, the brilliant people that support this channel. We'll also say hello to Martin Parker, who is there in the chat. Happy New Year. Wishing myself and Anna a Happy New Year. Thank you very much, Martin, and same to you as well. And thanks once again for joining me this evening. There you are, your second from the top there at the moment. on the channel members list, in no particular order other than that's the order people joined in effectively. So if you haven't done already and you would like to support me here on Wi-Fi Sheep, you can by joining our Patreon. It's patreon.com/Wi-Fi Sheep, or alternatively you can join the YouTube channel members scheme. There is the tiers, that's in British pound sterling, starting at 99p all the way up to $2.99, and that will be converted into US dollars or your local currency wherever you happen to be in the world. Right. Yeah, so I've actually got quite a lot to talk about today. In fact, I have a feeling I don't want to jinx it, but I think we might actually run out of time. Got until about 10:30 GMT, which is kind of normal for us to talk about some things. So the breaking news, and it concerns Retro Games Limited. Now, they are the creators of the C64 and the C64 Mini and the A500 Amiga Mini, the one I didn't really think much of and got a lot of flack for. Anyway, they have just posted over on X, and I was just trying to bring that up on this PC system. And yeah, I've been having some issue because I need to log in, and I haven't had time to get my password set up to log in on this. So basically, I've been just seeing if I can find the tweets to show you what they've just tweeted. and I really need to log in. Yeah, it's only not showing me anything because I need to log in. But basically, they have hinted in the past now 10, 15 minutes that they're going to make a new product announcement, a new mini console. So something else that's not what they've already done. And of course, speculation gets quite high and people like me start talking about it, giving them all the free publicity in the world. Yeah, so... And again, I regret. If I find my password, I'll log in and then I'll show you it. I probably should have done that. I just literally ran out of time. So yeah, I might need to go and log in before I can show you. But basically, as I said, they've hinted it's Q1 for 2024, and they're hinting on a new retro system. And of course, all the replies, people start speculating between what it might be. I'll be honest with you, I don't know what it'll be. It'll probably be something like a Sinclair Spectrum based system, possibly an Atari. I've been saying an Atari 8-bit or an Atari ST or something like that. That's not out of the question. What it won't be is an Acorn product, and I'm sorry to disappoint everybody. Everyone says, "Oh, it'll be a BBC Micro." It's not. It's not going to be a BBC Micro. If it is an Acorn product, I will be astounded, because basically the rights for Acorn properties are all over the place, a bit like me this evening, and basically people claim they own things when they don't. Those that do own bits of the breakup of Acorn computers don't know what they own. So to try and sort of piece that all back together, even if you didn't have the Acorn brand, but to piece, the rights to the basic ROMs, the rights to the whatever, it's a nightmare. So it's not going to be a BBC Micro. Plus the fact that Acorn products are not known outside the UK, it would have a very niche following. The games, it wasn't the Commodore. The Commodore 64, I could totally understand why they did that. The VIC-20 made complete sense. A500, I mean, I didn't really do anything for me, so I wasn't interested at that point. If I did something like an Atari 8-bit, which I think is what it's going to be, that would be interesting. It's going to be a mini system first. Do I want another mini system? We'll see. We'll see what it is. We'll see what the price is. Not sure at the moment, but hey, who knows? It could be very, very interesting. Atari, by the way, all the rights are kind of in the sort of same pot at the moment, so it's not too difficult to acquire Atari IP rights to do a product. So that's why I think it'll be an Atari. Was it 400, 800? Was that the name of the 8-bits? So someone in the chat help me out here. Before the ST, what was the 8-bits called? I can't remember. Anyway, it'll be something along those lines, I reckon. Or it'll be a Sinclair-based product. Bear in mind, these are the people that originally did the... part of the people that originally under Retro Computers Limited did the ill-fated Spectrum Vega and Vega Plus. So it wouldn't surprise me if they didn't have a go at making a Spectrum. And yeah, you could make a reasonable ZX Spectrum, probably not too difficult. People have made reproductions, so it's not out of the question for it to be something along those lines. And again, the rights and the ROMs, you can procure all that. It's not too difficult. So that's a piece of breaking news. Be very, very interesting to see what they announce, and if they announce anything. They're probably not going to do anything tonight, but possibly this weekend, possibly Monday. We'll see. Right, so that is that. A few other things I do want to talk about. So I said I want to say Happy New Year to everybody, because this will be the last time of saying Happy New Year. Hope your New Year is going well. I've not gone back to work yet. I go back to work on Monday. Speaking of which, if we do all right time-wise, and I hope it's okay with you, I'm thinking I've actually got a little bit of work that I need to do, some soldering of some development boards, and I thought we might actually do that on the stream. If you don't mind, by the time we've finished everything else we need to do, if you don't mind me just doing some work. Yeah. And Germon's with us. Happy New Year to you. Oh, hello Germon, thanks so much for joining us. Actually, I'm glad you're here. Actually, get on. I'm planning, fingers crossed here. I'm planning of doing the Kim 1 Uno, but you sent me those boards, and I've been sitting around and I've been collecting all the parts, and I'm really, really keen to do it. So I'm thinking, no, New Year, absolutely need to kind of sit down and get that done. That said, I've had another very interesting discussion today. Well, I say discussion, it was a Discord thread that I posted on about when the next retro computer festivals at Cambridge are going to happen for this year. Now, there's talk about an event in April, and there's talk about the big main event being in November. That's this year, 2024. I didn't attend them last year. The first one, the spring show, which is your April show, basically they had that's the themed one, and it was Japanese computers, and I don't have any Japanese systems, so unless you class the Nintendo stuff, but if you know what I mean, it wasn't like it was. Yeah, it didn't work for me. And then the November show, the big one, got oversubscribed. I'd started a new job, so it wasn't exactly available, and I just thought, you know what, it's a bit too much of a push. So I kind of went, you know what, I'll sit out of that one. Do what you need to do. I'll sit out, and I'll come back next year. Well, now next year is around, so I'm hoping to be at least one of these events. And as soon as I've got some details, I will share that with you. I don't want to talk too much at the moment because it's not public domain information as such. All I will say to you is there is going to be some Cambridge event happening. So that's kind of cool. And we'll look forward to seeing where that goes. Right. Another talking topic I want to just discuss. This was, if anyone is a subscriber of Dave Murray, that's the 8-bit guy. You could say one of the original retro computer YouTubers, one of the original, and he posted a video. I think it's still at the moment time of live streaming / recording this video. He recorded a video, sort of almost like an end of year State of the Union type thing, the kind of thing I did, but admittedly I did mine privately to those of you that are Patreon or YouTube channel members. He did his publicly, which is fine. Yeah, I mean, it didn't come as a massive surprise what he said. If you don't know what the video was about, basically he was saying that well, he's overworked, underpaid, and you may remember he left his job, whatever it was, to be a full-time YouTuber. And I know a few YouTubers that have done this. I mean, I don't know any of these people personally, by the way, so and I am not in that league, and I'm not even going to pretend that I am. But they'd left their jobs, they do YouTube full-time. Now they're not making the ad revenue because the ad revenue's dropped off a cliff, and he's gone back to doing 2 jobs or something. Hence, he's basically not going to be making the content he was anymore, etc., etc. Sort of moaned about a kind of flood of the market. Yeah, there's saturation of content, so he's not getting the viewers because other people like me are making content, and that's taking his viewers away, and some sort of strange rant like that. And it might be true, but I'm like, the problem with the 8-bit guy was that obviously he went to do the Commander X16, and we're not going to get into how you feel about that, but so he wasn't making content. When he did make content, it was rushed through. Then he made that but there's 2 videos about a computer reset warehouse place. The first one he sort of complained about having to go there, kind of thing, when it's literally on his doorstep. And then he picks up some IBM machines, some rare unreleased prototype IBMs, and then tries to do a rushed, botched repair video where he takes a Dremel to the screws, jams paper clips in the power supplies. You probably have seen it, and people just lost their collective shit about that. It wasn't a particularly proud moment. Then there's obviously his political views, his sort of open carry gun Texas law type stuff, which I mean, okay, it's perfectly legal where he is. That's Texas, that's America. But for the rest of us, especially, I mean, here in the UK, I live in a country with the second highest, second tightest gun control laws in the world. The only country tighter than the UK is Japan, which basically boils down to you're not allowed firearms, except a shotgun, but that's licensed. And you basically can't just buy guns. You certainly can't carry guns around. So it kind of grates with me seeing that kind of culture, And I think sometimes when you're making content internationally, you have to sort of think about how that comes across to people in different parts of the world, different cultures, different kind of standards. And that's the one thing I'm very careful about, is not pushing personal viewpoints or political agendas. And he did that, and I kind of I personally don't think much of him anymore, in all honesty. I mean, it's not just that, it's a few other issues as well, things he said and done, on camera, off camera. I'm just like, you know what? I mean, I'm still subscribed, and I'll still do occasionally pick up the stuff, but I'm just like, yeah. But it's interesting what he did say about the revenue dropping. Now, I've never made enough revenue to fully support myself here. So when the opportunity came to come and work at Harper Adams University, I went, yep, absolutely, leaped on that, even though that meant I wasn't doing this sort of content full time anymore. And I'm fine with that, because we'll carry on. And if you were on the last edition of 8 till 8, the private one for members and Patreon backers, you'll know that there's a few things planned, and a few changes are going to happen this year, which is great for me. And I mean, I will get back into that zone, I think, of making the stuff that I want to make for me, regardless of if it's, I'm not going to go chasing ratings. I'm not going to, things might become less commercialized, put it that way. I'm still going to do the things I do, like the sponsored review videos, and we're going to still have sponsors coming and going, as we always have done with the channel, but things will be a little bit different, and that's fine. So I'm here for the long haul, basically. But there's other stuff I would like to do, other projects, other channels that I run, things like Wi-Fi Shoot Channel 2. There's a few other things I want to do as well. So, that for me is fine. I think, going back to 8-Bit Guy, I think fatigue has set in. He clearly can't do everything he was trying to do. The one thing that did alarm me is when he was talking about this, they're renting this big space to run an arcade. They're going to make a video games arcade. And I'm like, oh, right, that's better you than me, basically. I can't comment, obviously, for the United States, so it might be that everything, is viable. Walk-in, 80s style video arcades are maybe viable and all the rage there, but that wouldn't work here. I know that much. People, there's also people trying to run, computer museums, and I thought, oh yeah, it'd be great to, set up a computer museum and and expand Wi-Fi Sheep out that way and do all that kind of stuff. And now I'm kind of thinking, it's a fad that we are getting into the end game potentially. Ever since 2012 when the Raspberry Pi, 2011, 2012 when the Raspberry Pi launched, and this whole kind of STEM computing kind of, this when I came, picked this all back up again originally. And there was a whole, it was exciting. There was a whole movement. We had clubs, we had meetings, and then everyone thought, oh, well, the Pi's great. And then, the retro computer's great. And then everyone sort of got back into retro, and that became a big thing, and retro gaming. And then all these YouTube channels and enthusiasts and everything kind of, fueled it. But, you create a bubble, and eventually people move on. There's nothing new, and people struggle to create new content or come up with new ideas or tell you anything that you don't already know or haven't already seen. COVID obviously had a huge impact on the whole makerspace type thing. People don't have the disposable income, especially those that aren't, computer enthusiasts to the kind of extent that maybe we are. Families and casual hobbyists, they lose interest and move on. They do other things. And I think, a lot of YouTubers, there was another one recently from, oh god, I can't remember the channel. and I should know, he's an Australian, a bigger YouTuber as well. Oh, I can't remember, but he did a bit of an update video, kind of almost hinting that he would be kind of calling it a day as well, or in one sense or another. So I'm thinking there's a few of them that have sort of decided they've hit 24, and they're just like, nah, not bringing enough money in, not worth my time, don't enjoy it anymore, etc., etc., etc. I mean, that's fine. And obviously each to their own. You have to do what you have to do. I mean, I'm having to make modifications to how I'm going to work. But I think the thing with us here at Wi-Fi Sheep is that, we'll carry on. And we'll carry on because, I enjoy doing this. I hope you enjoy watching it. Yes, we're going to have to do more of these kind of live stream type things rather than, I'm still going to do pre-record, pre-edited content. New video, by the way, coming out very soon on the quite brilliant Banana Pi M4 Zero. You heard me right, Zero. I did show it the other week actually on our New Year's Eve live stream. So that is a product sponsored video, but that's coming out shortly, and we're going to do some more project videos. We've got Project Rio starting up again shortly as well, so lots to look forward to. But we're also going to be doing stuff, as you well know, here on 8 till 8, the live stream, just because it's the only way I'm going to get stuff done, basically. Yeah, so that's that. I'm trying to think if I've got anything more to say to that, really. Yeah, so it's interesting to hear that, people saying about the revenue drops of YouTube. Personally, I can't say I've noticed much of a revenue drop. I don't really make any revenue anyway, so it's probably. I'm surprised Dave Murray, that's the 8-bit guy, isn't as rich as he claims he is, and he he hinted on some of the numbers, and I'm surprised that they're that low for a channel of 2 million. 2 million. And I'm like, what are your expenses or outgoings like that you can't sustain yourself off that income, even if it has dropped? But then again, you've not been making any content. You haven't been on the platform making and publishing content, so there's nothing new to watch. So no wonder your revenue drops. But oh well, that's just me. So we'll see how many of us are left next year. As I said to you all, I plan to stick around. 7 years I'm doing this now. Was it 8 years? It's coming up 8 years, and yeah, we'll stick around. The channel may change from what we do. It evolves. We're already going to have to shift the format, as I've said, just so I've got the time to make stuff. But we're going to make stuff. We'll carry on doing stuff, and at the end of the day, we'll just have some fun. I'm going to enjoy doing it, and I hope you enjoy watching, and we'll go from there. Right. Gosh, we're only 25 minutes in. I tell you what I do need to do. I do need to go and get a glass of water and maybe a cup of tea, because I've crashed on air early. Well, just on time, sorry. And yeah, so if that's all right, I know we're only 25 minutes in. I'm just going to go and I'll be back in a minute. I just need a glass of water. And then we'll talk about the other big thing which has happened this week that I'm quite excited about, which actually, I'll give you a hint, why it's worth staying. Look what's on the desk. Look what's on the desk. So yeah, BBC Micro Model B, and yeah, we're gonna do some quite interesting has happened. If you're following, especially the UK scene, me and a few others, I've been tweeting or Xing about it. A few things happening. So you'll know why this is on the desk, and yeah, we'll come back to that in a moment. But you will have to excuse me, everybody, as I just need to go and get myself a drink, and I will be right back. So if anyone wants to go on a toilet or tea break, or both, now is a good time. All right, I'll back in a moment. So just got myself a glass of water there, which you'll have to excuse the dog. She's a little excited this evening. We say hello to Ab. Thanks, man. Happy New Year. A very happy New Year to you. And that's a new name I've not seen on the chat before, but you're most welcome. And hello. Hope you're well. Okay, yeah. So, what was all my cryptic talking about? Right. If I'm going to show you this, so this is the Centre for Computing History's website. This is Cambridge, where we have the retro computing festivals. And basically, those of you that follow me on what was Twitter, now X, may remember that, and I can't remember the username or the chap's name, which I deeply apologise for if you're watching. But basically, someone just randomly posted a picture of a home computer they had. They were from India. And it was this home computer they had that was effectively a grey and blue BBC Micro licensed clone that none of us had actually ever seen before, called the Hope, or the Hope Dolphin. Now, we knew of the existence of clone BBC Micros from India, licensed. So these are all licensed direct from Macom. And the ones we knew of looked exactly like this BBC Model B. They were literally the same colour. They just didn't have the BBC logo on. They had something else branded up here, but they looked identical. And they were actually made, they were assembled in India, but they were basically bought in as kits from, I think these were still made in England at the time, not Hong Kong. So they were made in the UK as parts, shipped over, and then they were assembled and sold in India under a different brand. And that was the Indian government's idea of trying to create a computers literacy program in India that was very similar to what British government were doing with these in the UK. So yeah, and that was what we thought was the end. You know, we thought that was the Indian BBC Micro. So when this thing showed up on Twitter, it was like, what on earth is that? And if I just go back, yeah, so here it is. Let's just click. So this is gone up onto the computerhistory.org.uk page, and just so if you want to follow along, you can. I'm just going to pop that in the chat. He says, one moment. Yeah, that's not quite. Oh, hang on. Microsoft Edge browser, don't you absolutely love it? Right, stop giving me jip. Right. That is annoying. Right, let's try that again. Okay, hopefully everyone's got the link now, so if you want to follow along, you can. Right, so the Centre for Computing History, basically what happened was that I started talking to the individual who owned this machine and asked a few questions and said, could you send me a couple of photographs, which they did. But they were then inundated, obviously, with other people. And I thought, I don't want to come across as pesky. I think people wanted to buy it and collectors were desperate to get hold of it. And these people, they didn't know what they had, basically. And I just thought it's a bit, what's the word, rude, intrusive. So I kind of thought, I'm going to just let it, you know, I'll sit back. I've talked to them. They've sent me this information, so we know it exists. Very interesting. And I thought, I'll leave it at that. Anyway, they did sell it in the end, and whoever obtained it got it out the country. So it got out of India and came to the UK, and has now ended up at the Centre for Computing History, who have now done this wonderful write-up about it, which I do recommend you go and have a look. And you can see the pictures here. So this is the Hope Dolphin, or Dolphin Hope. It's actually Hope is the brand of the computer. Dolphin is the name of the actual unit. And effectively, it's a BBC Model B of sorts. It's a much later plastic case. The one that I'm showing you here, back to camera 2. This is actually an earlier one. This is an 82, 83 unit. These Hope devices were actually made for about 89 until 1992. So they're quite late in the life cycle of the 8-bit. So this sort of form factor, what we call the BBC Micro Model B, was retired in about 1986. It was replaced by the BBC Master. But obviously, you've still got the toolings, you've still got the design spec. So you could license that out to other countries that wanted to carry on making BBC Micros of sorts for their own domestic market. And what we've got with the Hope Dolphin is a prime example. It's not quite the same, and it's not actually it's not a BBC Micro under the hood, which I'm going to show you now. So this is where it gets very, very interesting. So that's the underside of the machine with a couple of plug-in sockets, Molex type plug-in. I forget what you call these, but mine has them as well. But they're not fully populated. What they did do, and I'm so pleased they did this, is they managed to actually dump the ROM. Now, the Dolphin actually has one ROM IC in it with a combined operating system and BASIC. Apparently, other than the name Dolphin computer as opposed to BBC computer, it's basically identical ROM to the later BBC Model B ROMs. So it's not drastically different in how it performed, and so I suppose theoretically it would be fully compatible with BBC Micro software of the era. They actually got it here. This is running in an emulator. The machine itself doesn't work. It's got a lot of corrosion and water damage, as you'll see. So this is actually a picture of inside the unit, and this is where things get very, very interesting. So let me... Where are we? Right. So this is one of my units. And take the lid off. Now, those of you that remember, we haven't done a BBC Micro video in forever, but this is one of two Model Bs that have featured in videos on my channel. These also went out to, if you went to the 1981 or 1982 retro computer themed event at the Centre for Computer History, which is about 2 years ago now, which is scary. That was the spring show. I had two BBC Micros running, and this and one of its sister, if you like, units were running there as exhibit content. So these were both kind of refurbished and set up at the time. Right, so this is what basically a British Model B looks like. There's an exception, which is this is the video NULA card, which replaces the stock ULA video driver card. I covered that quite early on in the channel, so this gives me additional colours and screen modes that a stock BBC Micro can't do. Let me just take off the keyboard. Without losing all the fixtures. Plug the speaker. Okay, take the keyboard out. So this actually gives you a slightly better idea. If we go to, there we go. So you can see on your picture on the right, obviously, is my live video of a British Model B, and you can see there on the left is the image in the web browser from the Centre for Computer History's website. And yeah, there's actually quite a few fundamental differences between the British machine. Let's just excuse me a moment while I just try and I've changed the lens on this so we can get a better. There we go. That's not bad. Okay. Right, so if I can, I don't want to dismantle my machine too much, but let's just, I'll take this card out so you can have a better look what's underneath. So obviously I'm just missing a ULA chip that would actually have a heat sink on in that space, but that gives you roughly the idea of the kind of layout of BBC Micro. This is an issue 3 BBC Micro Model B. So you've actually got your EPROMs for your operating system, basically basic kernel operating system, and any external drivers here. So I've actually got a full stack installed. If I show you, where are we? I should have put these next to each other. If I just bring your attention to the actual layout of the board, you'll see it's similar, but it's actually not the same, which I think is very interesting. So so you can see here you've got 3 processor chips, and the main 6502 is here in the middle. That hasn't changed from my board, but the actual chip manufacturer is. So these are all Rockwell parts, which is extremely interesting, considering it's Synatec or Cinetec, which is the same as some of the early Apple IIs used 6502s in my machine, which is the stock machine. So the actual RAM, ROM, and processor manufacturer is different. Those are roughly, you can see, in the same place. The ROMs kind of are, but you don't have as many slots. You've got 5 slots for 5 physical ROMs on a Model B. You don't have that. If we just go back, you can see you've literally got this space here. You've got 3, and there's only 1 ROM on board, and that ROM is a combined OS and BASIC. Whereas on my machine, you can see here that OS and BASIC are on 2 completely separate EPROMs. Mine, you've then got disk drive, so that's the disk filing system, and over here, this one here is an Intel chip, and that's actually the floppy controller. BBC Micro's had their floppy controllers on board, as opposed to things like Commodore that had them on a separate, it's built into the device or the drive. The 6502 and the floppy controller actually drive a floppy disk drive as well, so that's kind of one thing that BBC Micro did, probably a little bit better than other systems of the time. Is marginal, I'll admit that, but and also the RAM. So apparently, so the RAM on this is 2 banks, so it's individual chips. It's 2 banks of 16K, making 32K together. And apparently, one of these, and I couldn't tell you off the top of my head which one it is, unfortunately, but it has a single 32K ROM chip, which by the time we're late 80s, beginning of the 90s, I could sort of understand the technology has shrunk into a single IC. I'm lying if I tell you which chip it was. I don't know which chip it is. It's probably, I'm guessing that's probably the ULA. Or no, saying that could be the ULA, and that might be the RAM. It's interesting because also things like dip switch connectors inside, and also these long arrays of resistors, which is something that we don't have. You don't have long arrays of resistors anywhere on this board. You do have sort of pools of resistors standing on one end up, and sort of the one of the wires or the legs bent back over. So there is resistors on here, and I guess you could probably have them in long lines had they not be standing up and sort of populated in little pockets around the board. But it is, you know, fundamentally a very, very different machine architecturally. And that's what makes it so interesting. The power supply is very similar, not quite the same. So this is the service supply in this particular unit versus, we go back, you can see it's similar. It's got these vents on it, but it's not the same. The power supply to PSU is different. Also, sort of holes where they've cut out to put things through it is different, slightly more crude. And also where things are positioned is different. So the sockets on this are actually in different places. So it's not quite the same. There's a better view of the single EEPROM, which they managed. You see how corroded it is? They actually managed to get that data read. So this machine is not in a working condition. Just trying to see if there's any other photos. But there is another picture which sadly isn't on here of it inside a case, actually in the museum, which is completely fantastic to see, in all honesty. And I'm personally absolutely thrilled that it has been preserved and saved, and it's gone to the museum. Had I actually obtained it myself, what would have I done? Made a couple of videos about it, being brutally honest with you, but it would have gone to the museum as well, because it needed the technical know-how of other people, especially to, you know, to back up the operating system. I see, and I'm so pleased they've actually got it running. What I do hope is that we do see a release, even if it's an unofficial leak, if you like, of this Dolphin ROM, so we can play with it in emulators ourselves. What I think would be fascinating is to get it flashed back to a EEPROM IC, put it inside a stock Model B, and see if it will boot it. Because that would be extremely interesting to see if it would actually boot the Indian Dolphin ROM, if it would actually work on a stock BBC Micro Model B. And even my dog agrees, as you can probably hear. I'm just looking at the chat. So just talking what we were talking about, what we talked about earlier, which was Martin just saying, glad to hear you'll stay around. Well, yeah, I've put too much time and effort into this channel to disappear. As I said, I'm going to be busy with other things, but no, I do intend to stick around. And saying it, you know, you struggle to get the time to put anything on your channel. Yeah, I know. It gets to the point where it's, how can I put this? I think when you've got sponsor and commercial pressures, you kind of have to do stuff, and you have to force yourself to do YouTube when you really, really don't want to do it. So also, don't get me wrong, I like doing these live streams with you, and I do. I've only missed a couple for other commitments, but you know, you do kind of have to, right, you know, I could have just, you know, got a beer and gone to bed tonight. But I thought, no, you know, I made commitments. You need to be, you know, scheduled to be regular live streaming. So I'm here, and yeah, it's going well so far. Go on saying multi-layer boards can cause all sorts of issues on older corroded machines. True, except these aren't multi-layer boards. So, and I don't think that one is either on the. I know to be this. Where are we? So that's double-sided. It hasn't got multiple copper layers. It's not like a wafer of multiple copper layers stacked. It's literally one on top, one on bottom. And I believe that the, where are we? Again, I don't quote me on this because I'm not sure, but I have every reason to believe that the Dolphin is also just a double-sided board. Later things like the Acorn Archimedes and RISP CGA were multi-layered boards. So from about 87 onwards, they were multi-layered. Now these obviously were 89 to 92. They could well be multi-layer boards, but if they're actually domestically manufactured completely in India, talking to the, again, I can't remember the name of the chap, and I'm so sorry. When I was talking to him through the messaging app on what was then Twitter, he was suggesting to me he wasn't even sure India, bear in mind, his home country, had the manufacturing capabilities to do this sort of stuff back then. Clearly they did, and they did make these, but so I don't know if I'd have the capabilities to actually, you know, make multi-layer boards at that time. And again, the BBC Micro reference design doesn't acquire or doesn't use a multi-layer board, so I don't know that one, but I'd be very surprised. You can see basically by all the components. Let's go back. There's nothing solder mounted, surface mounted rather. It's all through hole, which to me says just double-sided, not multi-layered. But you know, again, don't quote me on that because I could be completely wrong. And where we are in the chat, worthwhile having a look here. Another chap has a dolphin. This is Richard Webb. Yes, I saw that. So just a bit like buses. Yeah, unfortunately, only I can post. Well, it doesn't always work, but only I can post links. That just stops spam bots and stuff in the chat, unfortunately. But yes, yeah, someone else the other day, who I don't know, and I haven't had contact with, posted that they had a dolphin, and it was actually a better nick dolphin than the one that we'd all seen in the museum. We honestly thought that the one that's now in Cambridge, this one we're talking about, was literally the only surviving example of this extremely rare machine. And then, what do you know? Another one shows up. So it's like you could not make this up if you tried. And yes, there were actually some better photos with that. Yeah, unfortunately, if I could get into my blooming X account on this, because I'm on a different machine. Normally I stream on the Mac, but we've been streaming on the X1 development board, X86 development board, which does a sterling job at streaming. But I haven't actually logged into Twitter or X on it yet, so I should probably need to do that, which means I may have to put you on hold a moment when I go and do that. But yes, so it was better photos, and it includes the 1772 DFS, which is Western Digital, which is HD high density compatible controller used in Atari, Atari ST line. Yes, so I don't. Is that Rich? Is that the machine, the second Dolphin that's come up? It's actually got a floppy controller, because this one obviously doesn't or didn't. Yeah. So my machine, just going back to my machine, mine has the original Intel. God, the number's gone. 8271, which was the original control, which didn't cope with double HD, double density discs. Which, do I have any floppies I can grab quickly to show you exactly what I mean? For those of you that do not know floppy disks that well, and I put myself in that category, but let's see if I can just grab some discs and I'll show you exactly what I mean. Yeah, that'll do. Right, so basically, two types of disc, two different disc formats as well. I've just realised I need to grab the other one. Right. So floppy disks kind of like this. So this is, you can see how it marks as DS, so double-sided HD, 1.4 megabyte capacity. BBC Micros struggle to read and write to these. They can, but with these controllers, they'll only ever write, I think if I'm right in saying this, it's been a while since I've used the disc. They literally can only format up to about 200k in the standard format on a single side. So what you do is you have to flip the damn thing over and write to another side, but you don't need a notch out the other side. So that was a problem. Then we moved on to the hard format 3.5-inch discs, and the double densities, which basically is what this controller can technically cope with, though it doesn't technically run with the 3.5-inch floppy drives, although certain drives, certain early Sony drives, it will actually run. So I have a couple of drives that I can use the stock Beeps Micro controller with, and it's absolutely fine. But obviously it won't have it at all. But anyway, yeah, so basically you could trick it into formatting these discs. But again, even though these are about 700 to 900K on a PC or Amiga type system, you'd only get 200K on a Beeps Micro. Then these, of course, came along, which were the HD capacity discs, which had two holes. And these were the 1.2 megabyte discs that we're probably more familiar with for those of us that use PC or Mac. Even into the early 2000s, and yeah, so, and these don't, well, you can trick them into working again by sort of doing a whole taping over a hole and tricking it into thinking it's a double density disc. It's a bit of a no-no, you know, it's like, don't do that. But yeah, so basically the floppy controllers, the early ones like in this machine, are limited to what they'll do. It sounds like, due to the information that Richard's given me, and I missed that this second Dolphin has a better, newer, if I can say newer, it's still 30 odd years old, floppy controller in it that was able to use basically higher density format discs, I suppose either in that format, and I'm assuming it would probably be much happier running with things like this if it could run a HD format, so you could actually use more modern floppy disks with the system. Yeah, so it's all very, very interesting. I said, what are the chances that two of these damn things come along? We thought, you know, that was the only one in existence, and then there's two of them. So I just hope we get the ROM to play with. I really do. I honestly hope we get the ROM. I know it's probably nothing different to it other than the name, but it's still very, very cool. And as I said, for those of you that join me on the New Year's Eve stream, I said one thing we've never formally done, we've dabbled with Model Bs, but we've never done a complete Model B rebuild before. So that is something I need to consider, you know, doing maybe this year. I have to say it has inspired me to look at doing a couple of sort of Beeps Micro type projects, rebuild projects. Because I have at least two machines, that Model Bs, that are not in good nick. One of them is literally a scrap parts machine that's dead and is missing huge amounts of parts, and the other is just, it's complete, I think it works, but it's in really horrible condition. And it may, those you may remember when I did the Pixel Addicts article for the Pixel Addict print magazine, and I needed a grotty BBC Micro for the article, and I did a video, do you remember? That was the one where I shot it all on my disintegrating patio literally hours before a big snowstorm came through. So I've got that machine. I was thinking about possibility of making a sort of, well, originally I thought maybe I could clone the, where are we? I used the word clone wrongly here, but just bear with me. So I thought maybe I could mock that up with a Model B, so it kind of looked like that, sort of. But even the keys aren't actually the same. So the keys are a little bit newer, more squarer, slightly shallower. BBC Micro keys, if I just bring you back to my keyboard, which I took off the machine, just bear with me. Right. BBC Micro, BBC Micro keys, so it's a full mechanical type keyboard. It's not cherry switches, but it's a full mechanical keyboard. But these keys they're more kind of like very traditional typewriter type keys. They're sort of taller, they're curved, they sort of indent. They're not squared or as flat. They've got quite a distinctive, well, you know, it's 1970s because this would sort of be the era. But you get the idea. And also all the keys are the same. They're not modern keyboards. They have different pitches and tilts of keys. So the whole keyboard kind of does this sort of motion. These are all the same keys. They're all pointed in one direction. I know it's going to be a bit blurry, but you can see they're actually the same. They all face the same way. So it would be difficult to reproduce, and I'm not trying to say reproducing a fake in any way to fool anyone. That wasn't the purpose. It was more sort of a visual representation of what the clone machine might have looked like, or did look like, but it would be made very clear that it wasn't an original. But that was an idea, but I've gone off the idea. But I'm now wondering about the possibility of sort of maybe doing a kind of a fictitious BBC Micro mock-up, you know, because one of the cases I've got is in really bad nick and could probably do needs a repaint, which I don't like painting stuff because it's not painted plastic. And you can retrobride it. These have been treated, actually not too bad condition actually. They're quite near the original colour, but my thinking is possibility of maybe a slightly updated BBC Micro. Maybe we could change the power supply. Maybe we could visually update and refresh the look of the machine. I don't think that'd be too much of a problem. These aren't particularly, well, I say valuable. They're not rare machines in the UK, and the stuff I've got is in terrible nick. So you know, bringing a fourth machine online. I think it's another issue 3 or 4 board, so it's an older board. But yeah, it's an idea I'm mulling around with at the moment. It might be quite fun. It might make something quite interesting for the channel. Visually, it will look a bit different. It will look like a BBC Micro, so you get something. It would look like the Dolphin sort of machine. You can say, yeah, that's a BBC Micro shape, but it's not the very distinctive black, orange and beige colours of the Model B that we're used to here in the UK, or around the world for that matter. So yeah, it's you know, it's stuff I'm thinking about. We're just looking in the chat here, so yeah, Rich is just confirming, yeah, that the other machine that's shown up, this other Hope Dolphin, does have a floppy controller in it, which is, yeah. So what are the chances? And then Gertmon's back with, it's good to see them going to museums. Yeah, it really is, and get the technical attention they deserve, and make available for community to visit. So I have to stress, I don't believe for a second that this machine that the museum has got is actually ever going to boot again. As I said to you, if I'd actually had the machine, we probably would have looked at it, but you're not going to turn it on. You know, I would be more conscious about just getting that ROM or ROMs dumped. So we've got an archive copy of what the machine actually had. The fact that the machine is in existence, it's in a case now in the museum. So if we go back to do a retro festival this year, I am really going to look forward to getting back to the Cambridge to actually go and have a look at this machine for myself, to see it in the flesh, in the person, which would, you know, you think, well, it's just a Model B, but it's not, you know, it's different. So yeah, it's really, really interesting, and it's such a good news story. So the only thing I now hope is they've archived the ROM and they've shown it running in an emulator. I just hope that we can have access to it, so that, you know, we can play with that ROM. And I said I'd like to see I'd like to see someone write an EEPROM with that data back to a new EEPROM chip or new old stock, whatever. Put it into a BBC Micro Model B, and, you know, let's see how well that works. That's the last question: is can a stock machine actually boot the Indian ROM? And that's what I'd really like to know. And I'd be interested if the museums, they've got more than enough BBC Micros there. They've got a classroom full of them and spare machines, so it shouldn't be too difficult for them to answer that for us. Right, I think I'm going to put this machine back together now. You're going to have to excuse the dog, who's having a right old bark for whatever reason today. She's been fed. I should tell you what, she actually needs to go out again. So unfortunately didn't quite get a chance to took the dog out for a long walk earlier today. Didn't get a chance to take her out this evening, unfortunately. So speaking of this evening, can we have a moan about the weather? For those of you in the UK, it has been it's been strangely mild for this time of year, but we have had nothing but storms and floods, and I know I'm suffering from flood issues at the moment. I'm happy to say, although my town, unfortunately here in Shrewsbury, is flooded at the moment, which is not a particularly unrare. Your dog never barks, Gertmon. Would you like to swap? Is your dog broken? No, I just like, what part of shut up, dog, don't you understand? Is your dog actually still living and breathing then? It never. Anyway, the point I was just trying to make is that, yeah, we've had a lot of storm damage and a lot of floods. And your dog is a Labrador, like mine. And you have a Labrador that never barks. Seriously? No, Bella likes to, if it's not dog barking, it's blooming budgies that you hear. Those of you that regularly will know all about that, what I'm referring to. Yes, it's like, I share the house with many animals, yeah. And Martin was saying you were in Oxford Thursday, Friday, and it looked bad. Bad. Budgies barking. No, no, they make this sort of squawk. They don't tweet like birds. They make this sort of kind of like squawking, shouty. It is a sort of a bark, but not like a dog. And you can, if you listen very carefully, you can hear it in the background of my videos. That's where Rio came from for Project Rio, our 8-bit build system. It's from Rio the Budgie. So that's where that comes from. Named after one of the pets here. Come on, this is the channel that did chicken cam the other day, so you know we're up for that kind of thing. So have we had any flooding problems? So I am pleased to say, because I am on high ground, I am not flooded as in the property isn't flooded or inside or anything like that, but the garden has been flooded for a little while, which is between the house and the chickens at the far end and the coop. There's been like a moat in between, so I've had to wellies to wade through the water to get there and back, because the pond kind of just quadrupled in size into a small lake, and all the water off neighbouring property sort of poured in. But the town itself is flooded. I was in town earlier today, and that's bits of that are closed and flooded, but this happens every single year. To be honest with you, it's not as bad as it has been. It's not as bad as I remember it being, especially going back to the late 90s, and early 2000s, with some particularly bad floods. They do put flood defences up. And actually, we had worse floods last year. We had some pretty bad floods, but here won't flood, because we're, I said, I'm on high ground. If we literally got flood water in this house, buildings would be multiple feet underwater, completely, like multi-story, 3-4 story board buildings would be literally, would be feet underwater. It'd be, biblical type, Noah's Ark territory to be if we got flood water at this level. But you do get some localized drain off. But no, it's just it's also the storms and the things that's blowing around and collapsing, and bits of garden and chickens that can just sort of chickens don't fly, right? They're not a flying bird, but they can just sort of sit there, open wings, and just take off in the gusts. Yeah, but now it's getting cold, so it's quite chilly at the moment. So it's still damp and sodden out there. Now it's we're getting down to the kind of we did get some frost yesterday. It went below 0 here yesterday, and it's going to be like sort of 0, 1 degree, 2 degrees, 0 degree, that kind of thing. Which I don't mind, as long as the weather's tepid. In as much as we're not having, you know, the storms, it's settled. I can deal with the cold. What I can't do is because of constant floods and what have you. Michael is, oh hello Michael, sorry I'm late. Grandkids had a soccer game and we're having a snowstorm right now. Right now, well we were just talking about weather. It's been unseasonably warm here. So we've been having storms of our own, which has caused mass flooding across the country, and we've had some localised issues here. But it's now getting colder again, so there's possibility of some snow. Possibly, it's nothing. It's going to be nothing like on the scale of what you get in North America. But actually, Michael, I am glad you're here, right? I want to show you something. Right, now, let me just explain the context. So Michael joined us on the New Year's live stream last week, and we were talking about the town where Michael's in the USA, and they're talking about the town that he lives in. And I sort of said, does your town have one of those very American, you know, population numbers on its you know, welcome to sign? And he said it did, now it doesn't. And I said, oh well, we don't really do those here in the UK, right? I went out for a walk the other day, and I was just checking through some walking through some fields, and I went into one of the little villages on my walk of Ryton, which is here in Shropshire. It's about 6 miles south of Shrewsbury, so it's kind of like central Shropshire, central England, but you know, a little bit south. And I noticed on the they have like this commemorative year 2000 stone that they put in the village as a welcome, and it is Ryton, population 192. I was like, no way. I've generally never noticed that or seen population sort of things written on the welcome signs for towns and villages. So yeah, I saw that, thought straight back to our conversation, and thought I'm going to take a picture of that. So yeah, I've just realised I haven't put my NULA card back in my beeb. Hang on, sorry, one moment. Got ahead of myself. I'll put the graphics card back into the machine. I did a couple of videos a few years ago about these video NULA cards, and they replaced the ULA chip. There's 2 ULAs in the stock. I'll start again. There's 2 ULAs in a stock BBC Micro. There's one here, and there's one here. This is the main one that drives RGB. And they go bad, unfortunately. So you start getting stuck bits and all sorts. So a friend of mine, Rob Coleman, came up with this replacement, which I think is an FPGA custom board, which he made. And it's a plug-in replacement. And he actually sent me 2 of these. Or did I? No, I tell a lie. I think I bought one and he sent me another one, which is very kind of him. And these give you, not only do they replace the stock BBC Micro ULA, which is a custom part, you can't buy them. So I'm just checking that's incorrect. There we go. So it replaces the chip with the same characteristics, but it also gives you the ability to switch to analog RGB from the digital TTL RGB that these machines came with. So also on the live stream last week, this was because Mike was on, we talked about how the Apple II generates its colour and why Apple II wasn't a huge success here in the UK. One of the reasons was that it effectively is a black and white machine, and it uses artifacting colour, which is something you can do with NTSC video standards. So if you have a series of black and white lines that you kind of connect strobe together on screen, they'll merge under NTSC and create blocks of colour. You can't do that here because we use PAL here in the UK. Most of Europe, in fact, most of the world uses PAL, which doesn't work with the PAL encoding system. There is an artifacting standard, but it's not that. So basically, Apple IIs that were imported from the States were literally black and white machines. So when Apple created the Apple II Euro Plus, they had to create like a daughter card to generate basic colours for the PAL encoder system. When you got to things like RGB, which is how these worked, these used TTL, digital TTL RGB. So you had a set palette of, I think it was 8 colours, including black and white. And you could only have the red, green and blue values on or off. You couldn't have mid or sub shades. And as a result of that, you can only have, including black and white, black being all off, white being all on, you can only have a logical palette of 8 colours. So the BBC Micro, despite the fact it was billed as a 16 colour machine, it only had 8 logical physical colours in the system, including black and white. Rob's card comes along, changes the output from digital TTL to analog RGB, and now you can actually mix colours, and you can actually have custom colour palettes up to about 4,000 something colours, but you can have up to 16 on screen, and you can generally have 16 custom colours, including shades of grey and orange and other colours that the BBC Micro can't do natively. You can now do thanks to this card. It also gives you additional screen modes, so high resolution colour modes. It does the ZX Spectrum mode, and there's a few others it does. It gives you extra modes. You can actually tap from basic as well, which is really, really cool. And that's what this card does, and that's why I really like having these cards in, because you can take advantage of having, you know, different colour standards and things, which you can't do on a stock machine. But in default mode, it emulates a stock. So it's not, you know, it's not, doesn't make the machine incompatible, if you know what I mean. Anyway, right, I think we're all in. So yeah, we'll have to think about creating or doing a custom. We'll need to do a refurb on Model B anyway, and maybe we'll do a custom, you know, project song, a little bit special, a bit different maybe. I have enough BBC Micro spares to justify doing it. They're as common as the Commodore 64 is in the States. BBC Micros, so they're not hard to get hold of. They've gone up in price. Used to get a machine for about £30–40. Don't know what's that in dollars. $50, 50 to 80 US dollars probably. Now they've gone up. I haven't looked on eBay. Should we have a look on eBay, everybody? See what the prices are. Let's have a look, because I don't know. I haven't looked in a while. Just bear with me. And Richard just saying there's another. Yes, there is. There's another replacement video ULA type chip. It's not the NULA, but 80% there. Yes, I have interest in that, because that's actually just a smaller, almost like footprint chip. Where are we? That's not what I wanted. There we go. Right, eBay. So let's have a look at some prices. This is ebay.co.uk, so I think you're going to see is in British pounds sterling. Go away. Yeah, let's see now. Okay. Yeah, you start to get the idea about where sort of prices have gone. Master System, which I've got a couple of here. Refurbished. Well, this is why you get things refurbished BBC Micro Model B. It's missing the plastic strip. How's it refurbished exactly? Issue 7. Missing hasn't got a floppy controller. Yeah, hasn't got a floppy controller on board. Hasn't got the so it's got just see the two EPROMs there. So that would just be the basic and the operating system. And also the issue 7's had a much finer pitch plastic case. The texture on the one I've just shown you is far more coarse than that. Yeah, I'm struggling to see, how's that refurbished then? Yeah, and it would have to be tape-based games because it doesn't have any way of reading floppies. So you're missing the key strap. Right. There's listing, issue 7, basic 2, very good condition. 3 caps replaced in the PSU. Heatsink installed on the video chip. That's the ULA we were talking about. RF tested, not great. Yeah, the RF modulator. For some reason, BBC Micro, the RF modulator cans. That's the thing that generates a UHF signal, so you can actually tune into analog TVs. They've never been that good on them. Never been that good on it. None of mine do a good picture via RF. The ashtray section is a bit damaged. Is it? Let's have a look. Oh yeah. So the ashtray is, well, we call it the ashtray. It's a little pop-out section. Might be just to show you on mine, actually. Right. So this is not the best example, but so the ashtray, there is this little pop-out section here, and mine's actually got this cover fitted. It was like, I think this was out factory, but some of them and other machines I've got have just got like a sort of indented section here that you could actually punch out, and then you could plug modules and things onto the side of the machine. And I remember the machines we had at school, none of them had intact ashtray sections, because they were always punched out by bored kids with biros. So trying to get machines that have actually got clean, non-damaged bezels rather, yeah. But 170. Free postage. Is that the going rate? £82. That's £50. 5 bids. Box 300. Yeah, this is what I'm talking about. So you get them with this hole, basically where the bevel has been sort of punched out. Oh, go away! Stop telling me things. Yep. Right. Yeah, and that looks like it's through the RF modulator. So the picture is not, you can see there, the picture is not good. That looks okay, but is that service then? Refurbished. And PSU recapped. Yeah. Okay, so that kind of it gives you the idea of kind of where prices are at. But you can see there's enough of them that we're not in short supply here of BBC Micros. Stuff like that is interesting. BBC Master Compact. Now that is a machine I would like. I would like a complete one. The Master Compact looked more like a modern PC. It still had the same colour palette, but it was the disk drive unit was separate. The computer was still in the keyboard, but the keyboard was separate to the actual main PSU driver and disk drive units. But they seem to have a tendency to fall apart. So there's all the metal, all the plastic here. They're meant to have plastic all the way around, and the plastic tends to, for some reason, fall off or crack. But yeah, you can see it has the power. There's nothing inside. It's literally a power supply and disk drives. I said the computer was actually in the keyboard. And then that's an example, quite like one of those as well. That's an example of a third-party case that you could take a Model B, and you could actually put basically the keyboard was in a separate piece, and then the actual computer and disk drive, so the motherboard and disk drives went into this piece here, and it kind of created a sort of I suppose you can call it more IBM form factor. So it's got some nice photos. So I can zoom in on those. Just bear with me. So basically, this the bottom of the Model B, the original Model B, is there. This plastic piece sits on top, and then you have this completely separate new plastic keyboard, which your existing keyboard sits in, and then you put your plastic piece, your key strap on top. You fit your drives inside, so it's still, you can see it's still the stock. Got a daughter board fitted, but a lot of ROMs on that. A lot of ROMs. And it's still pretty much a stock machine underneath. But you just feed your power supply for your disk drives and your floppy controller. Instead of feeding out the machine, you actually feed them back through inside the machine. Which, yeah, as a sort of enthusiast and collector, this is the kind of thing that is very interesting. What I would say is interesting, other than the price. And he's come down from over £1,000. It's like, yeah, no. Considering how brittle these third-party enclosures were, you see them, you do see them come up quite often. They're not super rare. Most of the time, they're smashed to bits. So yeah, if you fancy yourself a BBC Micro, these used to be about unrefurbished machines, untested and complete. 150. That's too much for a. What is that now the going rate for a slightly bashed up one? That's a lot. Yeah, this is what I mean about the bevel start falling to bits and bits of plastic. I've got machines that are in this sort of state, you see. I certainly didn't pay £150. I paid about £10. It's missing the feet as well. So yeah, and you got to pay the postage. That's too much. They're not worth 150. At least it doesn't go, oh look, rare, super rare computer that you must buy it. No, sorry, not happening. But yeah, there's stuff you can get. The prices aren't. If you really, really, really wanted one, you could sort of go in at the kind of, depends what your budget is, but you know, I don't think you're going to get anything remotely decent for under £100 now. It used to be you could get whole systems for 40, 50 quid because no one wanted them. And I'm guessing these prices will come back down again at some point, but we'll see. Richard saying he made a number of 3D printed infills for ashtray holes. Is that the ones that were at the National Computer Museum? Because they had a load that were given away for free, actually. I think I picked a couple up. Or is this separate to what they did? Just out of interest. And Michael's coming in, wow, crazy money for that. What? Yeah. It depends what you're kind of looking for. So, but yeah, I mean, you could buy one and import it. I've noticed that going back to Adrian's Digital Basement, he's actually sorry, I'm slouching. There you go, set up right. He's actually shown, I think viewers are sending him, he's got an Acorn. I haven't watched Acorn Electron, or actually I haven't watched any of his BBC Micro videos, but he's actually started doing British. This comes back to YouTube content creators, kind of, especially American content creators, running out of things to talk about, so they're importing the British machines, which is fine. I have no problem with them doing that, but for me, I mean, it's getting a bit buried under there. That's my BBC Master, which sits permanently there, which is still having battery problems. Need to sort that out. But I don't know if I dare show you this. This probably isn't going to work, but because it's, hang on, this is instant regret when I start moving the camera. Just bear with me. So you could probably just see there. There's the two machines I'm, hang on, just there. There's two Model Bs there. That's an Acorn RISC PC, and then there's two BBC Masters there, two more Model Bs there, and that's excluding the one that is just down here on the floor. And then I've got there's two metal chassis cub monitors, plastic cub Cavaretti monitor, and a Acorn branded, just behind the camera there, Acorn branded Philips. I forget the number. It's the same monitor chassis that the famous Commodore one that everyone has, but that's the European version. Yeah, and there's just stuff stacked on all the so I'm trying to get a right angle on that, but yeah, there's stuff stacked on the shelves. So that's behind the scenes. So I'm trying not to hoard stuff because I don't have the space to not hoard stuff at the moment. So I kind of, I've also got spare Apple flat screen displays. But yeah, so there's, how many BBC Micros? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 6 BBC Micros on the shelf there. Again, you can't quite see it. There's a small collection of MacBook and PC laptops there as well. So there's 6 BBC Micros. One down here is a 7. And then obviously I've just shown you is BBC Master. That's machine number 8. And then there's 2 Acorn Electrons as well. So now this room, trust me, is not tidy at all. Let's put that back before people start getting sick. There we are. That was the impromptu, unplanned tour of all the stuff I try and hide. But yeah, so that's 8 machines, and I have sold. How many machines have I sold? 2, 3, 4 Model Bs, and I think at least 1 or 2 BBC Master systems I have sold on over time. So I do plan to try and bring the numbers down a bit more. Anyway, where are we in the chat? So Richard saying no, I didn't make that. You know which ones I'm talking about, right? Yeah, they're too thick. I thought they were a bit. The one I've got is actually downstairs, which I'll have to go and grab. But yeah, I thought they were too thick actually. 0.6 millimeters. Proud. Oh, so it's not like a massive plastic chunk. That's interesting. Actually, yes, I've seen yours. Yes, I've seen. Did you post on? Was it the Acorn Facebook group, or was this Stardot? I have seen yours actually. Now you mention it. Yes, because you almost got the texture right on them as well. Because basically the bevel on a BBC Micro is slightly textured. It's not flat plastic, so probably both. Right, I have seen it then. Yes. I'm trying if I got any 3D print to try and do. Yes, I have. Hang on. So this is just printed. This is crappily printed PLA, but basically you kind of get this texture. That's not intentional texture, but you sort of get like a texture on most 3D print pieces, and the texture isn't a million miles off the kind of the slight matte texture that you get on the BBC Micro plastic surrounds. So yeah, that's kind of what we're talking about. If you're not familiar with plastic, what material are you using, Richard? Is it PLA, or are you using ABS or something else? Just out of interest. And Getmon's saying, didn't Adrian take on YouTube full time recently? Yes, he did. Which kind of brings us full circle to what we were talking about at the start with David Murray, the 8-bit guy, talking about him going back to work because he can't make YouTube work full time for him. And we'll just say hello to Brian quickly. Happy New Year, Tom and guys. Well, Happy New Year to you, Brian, and good to see you, and thanks for joining us. And Rich is saying PLA on a textured bed. Yeah, so you're just picking up the texture on the which worked really well. Yes, actually, now you reminded me, I can remember exactly your project. Yes. So at the start of the stream, when we started, we're just talking about David Murray, 8-bit guy, who's done his recent video updating his channel on what he was doing, basically sort of saying he couldn't make ends meet, and the finance for the channel was dropping, etc. So if you don't make any content, of course it's going to drop. That coincided with me talking about that I'm not disappearing, but because I now work, and it was always my intention to go and work full time for someone else, this doesn't make the money, basically. Which is fine. I don't mind. I mean, I'm here because I want to be here. It's not always about the money, and I'm actually planning we may be less commercial this year than we've been in previous years. Probably for you watching, you won't notice much difference, in all honesty. It's just the fact that we're going to do probably more stuff in these live streams because it's just about me getting stuff done, rather than the kind of traditional edited videos. But I still will be doing project edited videos, so you probably won't notice much difference. But yeah, so when Adrian Black at Adrian's Digital Basement said he was going full time, I'm like, put it this way: our bank and accountants don't like the idea of me being self-employed YouTuber. No, you cannot have a mortgage and buy a house if that is your occupation. So. Okay, fine, but I'm very happy being an engineer for an agricultural engineer for a university. You know, that works for me. That works. It's a fantastic job. I get to do some amazing stuff. And do you see the robots in the stream from Christmas? We went to play with robots costing 40 grand or something. It's just like, yeah, that's fun. That's a good day at the office. So I wouldn't swap it for the world, and it's just cool that we can hang out, we can do stuff, and I will hopefully not have the commercial pressures. So yeah, and that's fine, and we'll do stuff that I want to do that I hope you'll be interested in, but isn't going to be mass appeal, and isn't clickbait, So, and I'm just looking at Getmon saying the big boys don't have the same intimacy. Intimacy, yeah. As channels like yours, I wonder where you were going with that then. Intimacy. Steady now. Yeah, I know what you mean now. Yeah. Well, this comes back to when we talked as well about the possibility that there's going to be some retro computer shows at Cambridge. And I said this before, that when I know I didn't go to any last year, but I'm hoping to be at least back at one of them, either in April or November, or maybe both this year, we'll see. But when I'm actually back at the shows, it's like I like being on the show floor with some of the content that you've seen here on the channel. And my water's run out, and here to talk to you and talk to people, which I honestly don't mind doing. It's the whole reason I'm there. Is yes, it's great to be able to show off some of the stuff I'm done, and show people in person. I really enjoy doing that. But it's also about me talking to the other exhibitors, friends and colleagues, and it's also about talking to you, those of you that take the time and the trouble to come and pay to come. I mean, I don't get paid to go to these events, so it costs me. I'm out of pocket every time I go, but it's fine. I go because I want to be there, kind of thing, and it's also because I love talking to people like you. When you all come and visit, and I make sure I'm there on the. It knackers me. I'm completely dead. My voice is gone by the end, but I make sure that I'm kind of there on the floor, ready, not collapsed on the floor. I mean, there on the exhibition floor, so that I can talk to you, and that's what I enjoy doing, and I think that sometimes you get these YouTubers, and I've met indirectly some of the larger British YouTubers, mainly in the sort of retro gaming scenes, and they're all a bit kind of hide in the green room at the exhibition. We don't have a green room at Cambridge, but hide in the green room at shows, or they only do their little panel things, or you have to pay a fee to talk to them for 5 minutes kind of thing. And I'm just like, you can well and truly F off. I don't care about you. I know who you are, but I don't, particularly rate you, etc. Where my philosophy is, I'm just there for the benefit of the public to come and talk to me, because I like to talk to you, because like you, I'm a fellow computer technical electronics enthusiast. So there's not a hierarchy type thing going on in my world. I just happen to be stupid enough to sit in front of a camera, and I nearly said, and you're stupid enough to watch, but I didn't say that. I didn't say that last bit. I thought it, but and there goes the entire subscription base for the channel. No, you're all brilliant people, whether you financially back me or just subscribe. It does. I mean, obviously I really appreciate those of you that do back me financially, but for those of you that just subscribe, just pop in and say hello and are here right now, you're all obviously, you're always welcome. You all really are welcome, and it is so pleased to have the same people, the regulars. Now we're getting our little community together, which is absolutely wonderful. And I enjoy what you type in the chat box. I enjoy responding. And I still want us to get like a video call type thing going. It's still my plan. I know I talked about it over the New Year period, that I want to get like it's like a call, so we have like guest people, some of you come on and talk here on the channel with me, and we do that on an episode. And I'm going to do that sooner rather than later, but I'll probably get sidetracked now, because I go back to work on Monday, so I'll get sidetracked. Right, anyway, where are we? I am rabbiting. Brian is saying Night Owl is up if anyone is interested. And yes, can I do it on this machine? No, I can't, because I've not set any of that up. I will have to set up Night Owl for, I'll tell you what we could do, Brian. I can't do it now, but next week, if you hang on, think about this, I will set up, we're on a different machine, so you might notice there is no Mac here. We're running on Windows. We're running on the X1 board, which I did a review of a little while ago, which actually is doing a superb job of live streaming. I will set something up so we can maybe have another little look at Night Owl. We won't dedicate a whole evening to it, you understand, so we've done that. And I actually need to get the Night Owl video done, because I did a video. Yeah, I did a Night Owl. We're going to have a Night Owl video for the channel, and I just haven't got around to finishing it, but I've done some recording. So Rich just asking me ask us what Night Owl was. So BBS that Brian Martin here runs. Episode, can't remember the episode. Hang on, I can't remember the episode. What episode was it? We did a live special. Just bear with me, because I can't remember. Someone will have to remind me what day it is in a minute, because I won't be able to remember that either. Just bear with me. I'll tell you what episode it was. Content. It was a while back now. There we go. It was episode 8. And that is the link to it, which should be in the chat now. Obviously, go there after, I mean, do what you want, obviously, but I'm just saying, we're not finished here yet. That's the recording from the last live. That was our BBS special, which, if you want more of me after I've finished being live this evening, then you can catch up on that at your leisure. But, that was a fun night, that. We didn't get many people through. Basically, what the plan was, there's only one person go on Night Owl at once. And I assume, Brian, that's still the case, isn't it? So only one person go on Night Owl at once, and the idea was we'll create like a LAN party type thing, and we were going to like queue up and take it in turns to visit the BBS. The nice thing about Night Owl is it actually is hosted on a BBC Master, so you actually talk to a real BBC Micro that actually runs the BBS. So what I need to do, and what Brian said I need to do, is I need to get at least one of my machines, probably this one, running so it can connect to the internet. You can dial in traditionally, or you can connect via TCP protocol, IP protocol. So I need to get that set up. So you can go in via. You have a web client as well, don't you, Brian? That was new. You now have a web client, so you can actually just visit online in a web client, or you can use other software. So yeah, it was a great night. We didn't get many through, but we did get. Who was it that had a French? Oh God, the name's gone. What was the French BBS? Telnet? Was it Telnet? Oh God, I can't remember. Someone had a French protocol, like physical terminal for the French Telnet. I think it was Telnet system, which is a bit like our CFAX system here in the UK. But instead of being via UHF television, it ran via the phone network in France. And he had a terminal and Minitel. Thank you. That was it. Oh, it was Cape Town. I beg your pardon. I thought it was in France. Okay, Minitel. That's what I was thinking of. Yes. So somebody had a Minitel terminal, which would have originally been a French terminal, and they actually had it running. They dialed it in to run Night Owl, and actually sent me a photograph, and I got that photo on the. So you watch the end of the live stream, you'll see I actually got this photo came in live as we were running. So it was the only other person, but they did it on some proper authentic hardware, which was really, really cool. So that was a good night. That was a fun night, that. I said I don't want to dedicate a whole another night to it just yet, but definitely we could have another little look next week, probably, in amongst other things we need to do. Correction, I need to do. You don't need to do anything, but I need to do. But yeah, it was a good night, and I will do a video. And also, Brian, we had an idea. I had an idea of, instead of leaving you with just static holding captions, as I have been doing on the channel, the plan was to have like pages from Night Owl, a bit like the downtime on BBC services, where if it wasn't a test card, they had pages from CFAX. It was kind of going to have like just a recording of some of the pages from the Night Owl service on like a carousel running with music, kind of in the downtime of when I'm away from the camera, or you're waiting for me to go live. We need to sort, if that's still okay with you, Brian, we need to sort that out, and I just need to take another up-to-date recording, really, if that's all right with you, and then just sort of we can poke people your way throughout the stream, regardless if we're doing BBSing or not. That's the plan anyway. But yeah, I'll have to email you, or saying that I'll give you a call. I'll give you a call if I've still got your number at some point. That's the thing. If I end up with people's phone numbers, I have a tendency to call you. Some of you know that. Yeah, don't give me your phone number, because I'll end up giving you a call. So. Right, where are we? Okay, time's ticked on a little bit. Right. So one last thing I wanted to do this evening, and I hope you don't mind. Hang on, where we are. Well, there is another BBS about to be born on a BBC Master 2. It's called BBS and is running just now in test mode. My mate Ed in Worcestershire has set it up successfully. Ed, is that an Ed we would know from the Stardot community at all? Ed, BBC Micros. I feel like I might know who that is. Worcestershire's interesting. So that's where originally that's where this channel came from. It wasn't in Shropshire. We were in the very early content. His name on Stardot, Vila or Vala 025. I need to go on Stardot more. I don't go on it enough, which is really bad. For those of you who don't know, Stardot is the sort of Acorn, retro Acorn community. So it's mainly BBC Micro, but it also covers things like the Archimedes recipes. There's a bit of Risk OS crossover. No, that's not who I think it is. I don't think it is anyway. But another BBS. Anyway, the point I was trying to say is originally the channel came from Kidderminster, Worcestershire. Originally, is that no? It is Worcestershire. I was saying very easy to confuse it with Warwickshire. Are you thinking of Big Ed? I am. That's who I'm thinking of. Yeah. Okay. Scratch that. I don't know what I'm talking about. Like normal. Just another normal day here on Wi-Fi Sheep. Yeah, no, originally, if you watch our early content before I set up here, basically, I had a much bigger space on this. And some of the very early videos, right up until, I want to say 2019. I think 2019 is when we made the last content. We weren't there too long, been here longer, but I think we made the last content from Kidderminster, Worcestershire for Wi-Fi Sheep before we moved here. Yeah, we've been here since, I'm trying to think, when was the first video done in history? Yeah, it's been a while. It's been a while. And yeah, we might need, well, we will need to move again at some point because I haven't got this place indefinitely. So, hence why I can't just be a YouTuber because I don't make enough money to buy a house. So that comes down to it. But yeah, so eventually there's going to be this huge upheaval rather when we have to, well, I said you don't have to do anything. It's me. I'll have to pack all this up. So I don't want to be hoarding or collecting too much more stuff. Because yeah, as I'm sure you can imagine, that's going to be a bit of a pain to move. And then I need to set up a whole new studio and a whole new workshop. In a new place. We're going to be staying in Shropshire, hopefully. That's the plan. Well, we need to because we both work here in the county, so we need to try and stay in the county. And yeah, we'll be have a new place, but that place will actually be my own bricks and mortar and not that owned by my parents. So my parents not here, but this is actually it's a long, very complicated story. But basically, you know how most children move out and leave home eventually. Most do. My case, my parents moved out, and they left me in charge of the family home. So that's why I'm here at the moment. And then Anna, my fiance, joined me, and we're house sitting for about a decade, 10-year kind of period of time to house sit for my parents. But I mean, I have to pay all the bills, and you know, it's not. I'm not living freely, put it that way. It's I'm paying for everything, but yeah. So that's kind of why we've got this house at the moment. And this room, incidentally, it was originally my bedroom from when we first moved here when I was 14. So I was a sort of young teenager, and yeah, so this was my bedroom originally, and obviously now I've got the whole house pretty much to myself. Well, I have got the whole house to myself. So it's like, right, so this is the smallest of the 3 bedrooms here, and there's like, right, so this could be dedicated workshop. I say office, it's not really an office. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by the chat again. So Brian visited Night Owl recently. That was a result, Tom. Well, it would be if you were a teenager. I wouldn't have coped if I was. What, my parents leaving when I was a teen? No. I honest to God wouldn't have coped. There's a lot to do here, especially with the animals and the chickens and the land that needs looking after and stuff as well. So, plus the fact, you know, you do need the income to pay the bills, you know, council tax and all the running costs and everything. You know, I have to cover all that. So, it's more of a win-win for my parents moving out. So, this house is all paid for, so this doesn't now cost them anything, and it's looked after and maintained by me. But it works for us because we're not paying rent as such, so we can save to buy our own property, We just have the running costs of this place. So that's kind of the arrangement, but it's more beneficial for my parents for us to look after it than them trying to rent it, because this house technically isn't quite up to rental standard. It would need work doing. It's not, you know, it's perfectly habitable, comfortable space, but it's not. To be on the rental market, you have to do certain things. This house wouldn't meet regulations, so it's just cheaper and easier for everyone concerned. But yeah, so as I said, that's the story of, you know, I must be one of the very few people. Your still alive, nothing untoward about it, but your parents leave home and leave you at the house. There you go. Anyway, right, where are we? Just do some work. Let's do some work. So, which I hope you don't mind. I've got floppy disks everywhere now. By the way, do keep across Wi-Fi Sheep on social media, Facebook and Twitter, or X as it is now, at Wi-Fi Sheep. I will be posting when I get information, if I get information about potential shows at Cambridge. I would love to get down to at least one of the Cambridge shows. I don't know if I can do both, but I can definitely try and do one of them. I prefer the spring April show. It's always a bit quieter because that's the one that has like a special theme. So it's, you know, it's not just a general retro free-for-all show. It has a theme, or, you know. So the themes they're talking about, I could probably cover both. But it would just be great, you know. I like that show because it means I'm not as busy. I can enjoy it more. I can talk to other exhibitors and the public more, and people can come and talk to me more. We're not all kind of crushed up against the wall somewhere, or having to spill out into the car park to have a conversation. Right, what am I doing? Talking again. Just bear with me. Oh, it's there. That's right. Okay, so basically, I've got this, which I think I've shown you before. So this is an Arduino board. It's actually an Arduino Mega 2560. So it's the same, technically. He says, getting the right board. It's actually the same as one of those, which is more of the standard Mega board that you're probably more familiar with. And it's also the board that we use on the Atlas class robots that we have at work, which we use as training artificial intelligence, robotic, mechatronics training robots that we do as part of the course at the university. And one of the things I need to do, and I've been tasked with, is I actually have the board for Calypso. It's in the other room. I'll need to go and grab it in a minute. Actually, just bear with me, everyone. One moment. While I trip over a BBC Micro, which I've left stupidly right there. Just a minute. Okay, so some of you might remember I did a video on Calypso, the Atlas class robot, in the summer, last summer just gone, and that was one where the chickens were scared of it, and I actually had the board here and I did some repairs on the desk. It's one of the first things I did for my new employer, and then to my slight shock and horror, they scrapped the robot along with a few generations of these Atlas class boards. They actually discontinued them, and they did a chassis recover. So they took the wheels. These things had like a stock remote control car off-road chassis. They took the chassis off, and then these were just dumped into a store box. So I kind of said, look, can I take, you know, Calypso? It's just got an ID tag, so they're all names. This is Calypso. Can I take Calypso? And they were like, yeah, you can if you want. So this is now going to form the base of development board for some testing and some new ideas I have, things I'm going to bring to the university. And when I get back to work, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to get myself a used chassis. I'm going to put this back on the chassis again, so it can have battery pack and it should run again. Now, these are designed to take the Arduino Mega boards, and the Megas, this by the way was a Mega which I found in the bin at work, and as far as I'm aware it actually runs. It's a clone, but it's quite a high-end expensive clone, and it was in the bin. And we did a brief, I haven't actually uploaded code to it, but we did a brief test of it and it actually seemed to run fine-ish. So basically you'd upload your code and then it sits upside down and plugs in like that. Now what I want to do is I want to use these boards because they're a damn sight cheaper and they're smaller, but they use exactly the same processor. So it's all the same I/O, all the same processors on a much smaller board. Where these can be anything up to 20-30 pounds, these are about £4.50 for the same I/O. It's the same 16 megahertz clock speed, it's the same 8k of RAM. Also planning on using these for Project Rio, so the next build of Project Rio, because we need to build another board for that as well. Probably going to jump onto using these boards. So basically, because I'm blabbering, what I want to do is I want to take some breadboard and I want to fit breadboards on like so to make an adapter, and then I want to be able to mount this onto here to adapt this to fit and run on this chassis. Well, that's the plan. So we're coming up to 10 o'clock now, so I don't know how far we'll get, but one thing I want to do immediately is when you buy these kits, you get all the headers come with them. They're very good value for what they are. So I just want to get the header soldered onto this board, and maybe as I've got my Orange Pi 800 is running the display here. So here's the move the floppy disks again. So we've got the 800 here, and so we might use that just to for Arduino IDE, just upload some test code like Blink or something just to make sure that's working correctly. So that's the plan. So let's just zoom in. Again, I've been meaning to do this all Christmas. It's like I've had a fair few weeks off for Christmas and New Year, and you think, right, all the things I'm going to do are for Christmas, and you do absolutely none of them, or you just don't get around to stuff because, lo and behold, sod's law, you get busy. Right, soldering iron is heating up. That's fine. Liquid flux. Where am I getting them for less than £5? China, AliExpress. I have to stress, we're not talking those. We're talking this version, unsoldered, with just the headers. Yeah, unless they've gone up. I haven't looked the price probably in about since the summer. He says. Hang on a minute. We've got a web browser on here. I can check that for you. No, hang on. I think it's the. Hang on. Oops. Let's so you can see that. Hang on. Right, there you go. You can see what I'm doing now. So it's Mega. I think they're called the 2560. I think they're like the 2560 Pro. Okay, beg your pardon. They've gone up a little bit in price, but oh no, hang on. Just see. Depends because there's different sellers. So what are they going for? £7. Okay, they've crept up in price a little bit, admittedly, but they're still not horrendously expensive for what they are. They were about £4 when I bought them. and they're around kind of like the £7-8. So they've doubled in price. But yeah, I just buy off, you know, AliExpress, and it's generally fine. I've never really had. I've had one problem once, but it was rectified. So it's like, problem is you can just get in the habit of buying all sorts of random things because you look at stuff and go, oh, that's nice. Well, I have one of those. I have one of those, and all kinds of cool stuff straight off the Chinese domestic market. So, okay, yeah, they've gone up in price a little bit, but you know, that's probably just inflation slash. Well, I haven't checked what the pound sterling's doing at the moment against US dollars because it's all converted from US dollar prices. But yeah, so it's the Mega 2560 Pro, and it's still a very, very good small form factor board. And you just get them in these little kits. Yeah, right. There we go. Okay, so there we go. And I'm Richard just saying made an EEPROM programmer that sits on top of the Mega, but after the price skyrocketed a few years ago, it's not been viable. But that would work. Yeah, no, they're completely. It's the same chip, right? That is the same chip, exactly the same chip that sits on the expensive Arduino proper branded ones. I always use the clone boards. We use the clones at. Well, I say we use the clones at work. We have got some proper ones at great expense for some random reason. I just realised I don't know if I've got a damp sponge or something on. Have I got a sponge available? If I have, I don't know where it is. Because I decided to tidy stuff up and I never know. You know this if you watch the stream and I don't know. Got a sponge. It's not very damp. Just race to the bathroom. There we go. That's not. I know that doesn't look any different to you, but that's now damp. Where are we? Yeah. So. And get on saying, yeah, I only had one issue buying. Yeah, and the issue I had was they sent me the wrong stuff, but it was literally resolved. There was no real problems because a lot, you know, they want your custom, so it's in their vested interest to sort it out. It's not all scams and horrors and anything you might think. A lot of that is people's prejudices rather than, you know, for someone like myself who has dealt with China through having corporate sponsors who I've dealt with them on a number of different levels. To be honest with you, it has generally been a very positive experience working with China. It's not, I mean, I was really dubious when we started. I was like, no, don't like it. And then that was just me being prejudiced. You know what I mean? And as soon as I realised, actually, it's not actually that bad, and it was just me, I was the problem, it was fine. So let's just think about this. I need this to go that way so that we're not having to stick the board upside down. So we're going to go like that. But yeah, they're cheap enough that, and this is why I need to find a cheap, reliable processor for Project Rio. I wanted to go to the it was a 40-pin DIP package AVR chip called the 1284, which would give us a really cool 16K of RAM for the system, but you can't get them because of the chip shortage, and they are very expensive for what they are now. So they're in an identical package to the original 6502. They're not pin compatible or anything, but they're a microcontroller. But so I'm settling, as I have to. I am settling for using these. So I'm just doing flux. Again, I don't know if these are any good. They should be good, but I've not actually powered this up to test it yet. So, but if we do nothing else tonight, I just want to get this done. And Gertmon is have to go now. Hope to catch up next week. Good night. Good night, Gertmon. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm not sure what we're going to be doing next week. Have to see, because I've got to make a decision. What am I going to do live with you, and what am I going to do pre-recorded for videos for the channel? He says just seeing where his solder has gone. Otherwise we're not going to get very far this evening. Hang on. Oh, it's there. I buried it. It's fine. Don't panic. Don't panic. Just buried the solder. There we go. I've actually got a better... Isn't that weird how that's gone purple in the camera? I can assure you that's not purple in what I'm seeing, but this camera is a bit odd sometimes. The cameras you're looking through are actually off AliExpress as well. So what I generally tend to do is just do the corners just to hold it in. We've actually got like mobile extractors. That's like almost like looks like a vacuum cleaner, but it's kind of, well, it kind of is a vacuum cleaner, but it's a proper extractor system with like a hose that you kind of bring over your work as you're meant to solder, and you're meant to use those at work because of health and safety. And I get told off because I don't, because I'm used to doing this. By the way, I'm not. This isn't a lead solder or anything, but I don't use them, so I get told off because I should be leading by. Well, I have started using them in all honesty because I am getting told off too often. And you're meant to be leading by a health and safety example at work, especially with the students. That's the problem, is, you know, people like me come along and it's teaching bad habits. Appreciate this isn't the most riveting. Didn't Ben Heck do, when he was with Element 14 doing that series, and he did almost a live stream or a long video of him just soldering stuff. And originally they said, oh, we won't do that because it's boring watching someone solder. And then no doubt with someone either in the comments of this video or maybe in the chat, if there's anyone left, who'll go, you're not soldering right. I'm just like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't pretend for 1 second to be an expert. I certainly don't have the best tools in the world. This soldering iron was a Maplin special. For those of you that know what Maplin is. For those of you that don't, it's a bit like Tandy Radio Shack. Like a British version of that, which went bust. When did Maplin go bust? Was that 2010? No, it's later than that, wasn't it? I'm trying to think now. Well, it's 2016 or something. Someone help me out in the chat. Maplin. Or someone Google it. Oh, it was all right. It was overpriced for what it was, and I think what killed them in the end was obviously, you know, those of us going on AliExpress going, I'll buy that, and that. at a fraction of the price of what they sell at Maplin. Yeah, I got the shakes. So at this point is when, if you're watching me on pre-record edits, this is where I'd, you know, you'd literally be, I'd have all that done in like 2 seconds flat. You'd watch me go duh, 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 and I'd edit it and it would just be, oh, there, we're finished. No such luxury if you're joining me live. It's not amazingly straight, but it's good enough. If you're watching me live, and obviously it's real time. Martin says, I think Maplin was around 2016, 2017. Yeah, that would make sense, because I remember when we were based at Kidderminster, they had a kind of a large... We had Maplin here in Shrewsbury, and when I was in Kidderminster, they had a larger department store Maplin type thing. And weirdly, the Maplin in Shrewsbury had a game incorporated into it. Remember Game, the video game store? Equivalent to what I think like GameStop in America. We don't have those here. I think Game is still going, isn't it? I don't know. I'm no longer a teenager. I have a disposable income, but now I have to pay for things like cars and heating. That's a scary thing, actually. The first year students, this is at university, they were all born in like 2005, something like that. It's just like, oh my god. I was, how old was I then? 18. I was 18 then, 2005. It's scary. In the retro computing world, I'm still one of the youngest. Okay, there we are. Let that cool down. Board's got a little bit warm. So let's just see if that clicks through right or not. Might just a little bit wonky on the just straighten the pins up. There we go. Yeah, so that'll be fine. Where are we? So closed 2018. Oh, was it really that late? Okay. They were the same once they started to open shops. They were online only. The catalogue was an electronic hobbyist's Bible. Yeah. Did we ever have one of those catalogues? I can't remember. It was like Yellow Pages thick. example circuit diagrams. I don't know if I remember that. I'm not denying it. I'm just thinking, do I personally remember it? Don't know is the answer to that. Okay, anyway, so I just remember that they had original Arduinos when it first came out, kind of on the shelves. I'm too young. Yeah, well, yeah. That's just it. As I said, I am one of the youngest. I mean, as you probably know, I go on about enough. I did use BBC Micro, in anger because we had them in as a 80s hangover in school, but I wasn't born until the late 80s, so the very late 80s at that. So, I was like 3 years old in 1990, so that kind of gives you an idea. What I have bought, as Nick came the other day, is I bought some female pin header because I'd run out. This is single block female pin header, and that's so I can make the adapter, so I can basically build an adapter board. And I also need I need 2 sets of adapters. Plug 2 of these or 3 of these together. I need to saw off, which I'm not going to do now because it's getting quite late, but I need to saw off just a piece there and there, so these actually kind of match together. And so basically build one of these out of breadboard, or solder breadboard, add female pin header so it's compatible to that, so it will then sit into the Atlas board I showed you, and then we can add more pin header, both double and single, on top, and then plug that board in top, so it won't be permanently soldered locked together. It will be adaptable. Boards will clip in and out, and then I'll wire wrap it. I've got my fateful wire wrap here, and I'll wire wrap to make all the connections between how the pins are mapped here to how the pins are mapped on one of these, and that will create my adapter. But I want to create enough space on this board, so I might make it so it's a bit bigger and hangs out a bit more, so I can add things like ESP32, coprocessor, level shifter, that kind of thing. Be wary of that out of step head pin on the Arduino around D7, D8. On which one are we on? Oh, yeah, I see. Yeah, well, they effed it up on the original board anyway. Which is, where's the original board gone? I had it a minute ago. Down here. Yeah. No, tell a lie, they didn't. They did sort it out. So yeah, you can see here they actually had it rigged properly. The only thing they did get wrong was the actual pitch of these was wrong. So they actually bent. Actually had to bend one set of pins. Yeah, one set of these pins got bent over slightly, so it fitted the board. So these did have issues. I will make it work. Put it that way. Yeah, I will make that work. Just because it's got this edging, so you can't just clip it through, which is really, really annoying. So yeah, we'll probably have to cut it up into. Yeah, I see what you mean, Richard, but yeah, we'll probably. Yeah, I can see exactly what you mean. Thanks for the call out on that, actually, because I would have missed. What would I miss that? Well, I did. Yeah, I hadn't planned it. Put it that way. Oops, that's why you always put the lid on your flux. Yeah, that's going to be fun. Well, yeah, we'll make it fit. I mean, to be honest with you, worst case scenario, if I have to Dremel the damn boards, I'll Dremel the damn boards if I have to. I mean, this is now retired, so it's free for whatever. We did have one error, which I noticed. So this is a GPS module. They're quite expensive, and they kept frying on the boards. And then I said, I think it's GPS. Was it compass? One of these is a compass, one of these is GPS, and it kept frying, and I couldn't figure it out. And I looked up the component, and I said, "How are you feeding it?" He said, "Oh, off the 5-volt main on the board." And I went, "It's only 3.3 volt compliant, so you're frying them. You should put 5 volt into a 3.3 volt device." So on not this reservation, but reservation on this revision. On the later ones that are still in service, I actually had to take the board off, Dremel the trace, and then had to wire wrap to take the power feed from a spare 3.3 volt on the board instead of the 5 volt. But by that point, I'd already fried how many? Now, I have to stress that was not my fault, but that was done before I joined them. But I was the one who spotted it, and we were able to fix what that issue was. So I need to do that on this board because I think that's been fed by 5 volts. It shouldn't be. Yeah, so it's all trials and tribulations. So that was the repair I did last time, which is this repair here, and that was a new display because it had blown its display or something, which was causing it to short. But no, so that'll be job for next week is to get a chassis for this board and get this adapter fitted so we can fit that basically. That and an ESP32 and a level shifter. So, and yeah, and we'll take it from there. Right. I think what we'll do is we've got 5 minutes. Well, I probably want to call it a night, but let's just check this board actually works after doing all that. Because it would be sod's law if it didn't. So let's just so have I got a USB cable for it. It takes a micro USB. So, oh, cheers, Richard. Well, we'll be heading off very shortly ourselves. But thank you very much for joining us, and a very good evening to you. If I can't find a cable, we may have to do that some other time. I normally have this stuff to hand. And oh no, I think we're in luck. Yep, that'll do. Okay. Helps if you don't jam it into the Ethernet socket. Well, it's looking promising. It's lit up. So if we go to flashing, so let's go to Arduino IDE. Let's let that boot up a minute. Appreciate you're not going to see that. No smoke, no. Not yet. It seems quite happy. I did think a minute that it's not working. I realised I'd shoved a USB cable in the Ethernet jack, which is very easy to do on these 800. And actually, the Pressplay 400 will do it as well. So, some tiny basic code from before. So let's go. build that. Let's I just want to put a rear basic on it. I appreciate you can't really, unfortunately, can't really see that screen that well, which again if I thought about it, could probably have if I'd thought about it, I could have put it for the capture card and you could have seen the screen, but that'll do for the minute. Right, so let's just make sure we've got seeing the board. Let's see if it'll upload. We can run a basic interpreter on it. That's a good start. So we'll just let that upload now. Oh, there we go. It has uploaded. And the board itself stopped flashing. That seems perfectly happy. So if I now go to serial monitor, set the bar rate. There we go. That's looking promising. And yeah, I know you can't see it that well, but that has actually loaded. There is Tiny Basic. Okay, that's working. That's brilliant. So absolutely fantastic. Really, really pleased that's worked. I'll just, again, apologies, manual camera. There we go. So yeah, excellent. So that board, let's take that board out a minute. And again, I'll show you that on, there we go. So yeah, that's worked fine, uploads fine, excellent. So yeah, not a bad purchase. Again, they seem to have doubled in price, but £8, which is what? $10, excluding the shipping, but $10 US, something like that. Give or take, probably a little bit less actually. I don't know what the pound versus the dollar is at the moment, but yeah, not bad. Right, I think, in all honesty, we're going to leave it there for tonight. So thank you once again, everybody who has joined me. We'll do this again at the same time next Saturday from 2000 hours GMT. Until then, if you haven't done so, please do consider liking and subscribing. And I'll see you real soon, right here on the channel. From me, a very good night. Good night.